If you remember web swinging across the city, smacking on people's windscreens, and trying to catch that damn balloon, then you grew up playing Spider-Man 2, the movie, the game. But which one? Because there were 6 completely different versions released across 8 different consoles, and in this video we're going to compare each of them. Let's begin with the one most of us played growing up, the console version released for PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube. We start with this long sweeping shot of New York City. It may not look like much when compared to modern Spider-Man games, but this was pretty impressive for a 6th generation game. Tobey Maguire and several of the other actors return to lend their voice talent, as does Bruce Campbell for the tutorial.
Just a little friendly advice while you're falling to your death.
Now, the first game had several issues that the developers went out of their way to address this time around. They fixed the controls so there was no more unintentional wall crawling. The camera is also a lot more responsive, but the standout feature this time around is definitely the web swinging. For starters, you're actually swinging onto buildings instead of clouds, and the swinging itself feels really satisfying and fluid. This version would go on to inspire the swinging mechanics in the PlayStation 4 game. Now, another improvement is that you can actually go down to street level without dying this time. That's right, this is the first proper open world Spider-Man game complete with cars and pedestrians. And of course, the first thing we all did as children is try to beat up the pedestrians. And nothing happens. What do you expect this is? Simpsons Hit and Run? You can of course beat up the countless criminals that are roaming the streets of New York. Swinging around the city, Spidey will encounter various different acts of crime being committed. Now, you don't have to stop for them, but doing so will gain you hero points that you can use to upgrade your character and progress to the next level. Take that, generic goons. Wow, these are some prime ragdoll physics. Look, Spidey just keeps on going at this guy. And look at these New Yorkers. They give zero fucks. This one car just runs over the guy. This businessman's on his phone. He doesn't give a shit. Look, I can punch this guy's corpse all the way to the comic book store and the customers don't even care.
Well, I just saw someone being carjacked.
No, that's not a carjacking. This nice lady's just letting these 4 gentlemen borrow her car. And of course, Peter's genius strategy is to just punch the windscreen until they stop. This is another mechanic that the PS4 game borrowed. Spider-Man also utilizes a selection of special moves and power-ups to fight crime. Yeah, you're gonna think twice about jaywalking next time. Go on, keep shooting them, police. And look, the citizens are just cheering him on like a crowd at WrestleMania. Hey, come back! Peter Parker, bitten by a radioactive dolphin. Now, all these little side quests aren't just limited to acts of violence. Every now and then some kid will lose their balloon, some construction worker will be hanging from the rooftop, or some random person will break their leg and need taking to the hospital. Alright, I've got you, nice and easy. Ah, shit. Yeah, you should have just waited for the ambulance to turn up. I think I'm better off delivering pizza while this stereotypical Italian music plays in the background. Now, free roaming aside, this game does also have a bunch of linear levels that follow the plot, which sticks close enough to the movie. Otto Octavius is working on the fusion project along with his wife Rosie, who makes the world's thickest sandwich. Wow, this one's a keeper, Otto. Oh no. The game hits at all the main beats in the Dr. Octopus plot.
I need money.
Like the bank sequence, only this time he kidnaps Aunt May, shoves her in the helicopter, and then drops her off on the train tracks. Aunt May, I love you, but you've got to move. Look at how slow this train's going. Also, some of the longer conversations from the movie have been slightly truncated.
I've been thinking about what you said the other night.
Watch out!
There is a train sequence and boss battle with Octavius, but this time Peter ends up stopping the train from the back. Peter then sneaks into the warehouse, he gets distracted by sniffing MJ and gets smacked in the head. You take out the consoles and fight Dr. Octopus, while MJ annoyingly reacts from the sidelines while you get ragdolled.
Look out! Oh no!
Now, just like the first game, Spider-Man 2 expands the story beyond the movie's plot by adding some long-standing villains. You get to battle the Rhino, who will ragdoll the fuck out of you if you're not careful. Shocker returns for a few boss fights, but the most prevalent villain is Mysterio, who gets his own side plot. And I've got to say, these levels are pretty out there. There's this one, which takes place inside Madison Square Garden. You've got to punt these convicts inside these giant holes before doing an elaborate platforming section. Then we have a level where you've got to save the reporters from the burning theater. There you are, buddy. Take care next time. whoops. And then this part where Mysterio takes over the Statue of Liberty. But at least he set up these floating things for you to swing from. Growing up, this level was responsible for so many rage quits. And the Mysterio plot does end in this climactic battle. Now, there is also a subplot involving the Black Cat, and you can really tell the developers paid extra attention to her character model. It's supposed to be a bit of a love triangle between her, Peter, and MJ, but most of her levels just consist of Peter chasing her through the city, followed by an occasional battle with some goons or the Shocker. Now, Peter does also get out of the suit for the Daily Bugle sections.
I'm trying to get work done, Pete.
No, you're not. Your desktop's completely empty. In fact, no one in this office is working. Robbie's keyboard isn't even plugged in. And so that's the console version. At its core, the movie was a character-driven story. Now, while that's hard to convey in a PlayStation 2 action game, this version does a pretty good job at hitting most of the major beats. And just like the original, it manages to include a lot of other characters from the Spider-Man canon. Plus, the upgraded gameplay and free roaming really do make this a standout entry in the series. Unfortunately, the same can't be said about the PC version. This one was developed by Amaze Entertainment, who were known for children's PC ports of big franchises like Harry Potter and Shrek. And the difference is evident straight away. These developers saw all the effort Treyarch put into the web swinging mechanics and said, that, we'll just have him swing onto these floating webs. Everything here is stripped down compared to the console version. The open world is much smaller, the levels are basic, and they mainly consist of you running around, unlocking doors, and beating up goons, who shoot these toy blasters and disappear like holograms when you beat them. This one kind of follows the plot, at least at the beginning. Peter takes Aunt May to the bank, when Doc Ock and a bunch of goons break in. There you are, Aunt May, come on, let's go. No? I'd love to fight you criminals, but I can't seem to open this door. Now, if you want to get to Doc Ock, you've got to solve this stupid Simon Says music puzzle. Oh, hold on a second. Looks like these robbers have kidnapped Aunt May. And by kidnap, I mean she just willingly walked with them. Oh, now it makes sense. Look, there she is just counting all that fat cash. From this point on, the game just goes off the rails. You've got to beat up this Puma guy, then chase Doc Ock through Oscorp.
Spider-Man, please help me.
My oh my, where do I start?
Then before you know it, the entire city is floating Tears of the Kingdom style. Hey, remember in the movie when Spider-Man picks up a big boulder and throws it at Mysterio and then jumps down to Earth? This is one of the least accurate time games I've ever played.
I'm sorry, there's no one allowed on this train. It's out of service.
So are you.
I just have so many questions. Why did Doc Ock get the train? Where is he going? And where is he getting all these taxis to throw at me? Well, at least the ending is sort of like the movie.
Taking Mary Jane was a big mistake, Ock.
Spider-Man!
Right, let's check the old instructions before we fight. Okay, this is straightforward. We shoot the big ice cube and then left hook right to the face. This battle is ridiculously easy. Once you swing up to the platform, you just smack him a few times and that's it. Look at the beautiful couple. So happy to watch an old man blow up. Alright, let's move on to the handhelds, and there are quite a few. So we'll do these in release order, starting with the Game Boy Advance version. And this one is very similar to its Game Boy predecessor. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up, which has Spidey run, crawl, and swing around levels, beating up bad guys and saving innocent civilians. A lot of the levels and mechanics have been repurposed from the first game. For example, the opening level in the first game has Spidey swing around town, and he does the same this time around, only now aggressively delivering pizzas by breaking into office buildings. Also, why is the delivery boy on the roof? Another example is the level from the first game where you have to escape the collapsing building. This time you've got to outrun a fire in a lab instead. There are a few new sections like the street chase level. Oh no, I'm late for MJ's play. Oh god, I just wish these New York drivers would stop running me over. Hey, I'm walking here! The Mode 7 web swinging section from the first game is back, but this time Spidey can also run on the street. This version probably has the most villains, each with their own level and boss fight. We've got Rhino, Mysterio, Shocker, Lizard, Puma, and Doc Ock, who you have to chase through the New York streets, and he's also topless. Must be a hot day. And speaking of borrowing from the first GBA game, next up is the N-GAGE version. And while Spider-Man 2 for the Game Boy Advance at least tries to change enough elements to warrant it being its own game, the N-GAGE version just flat out copies the original. The levels are near identical, the enemies are the same, the hostages are the same, Spider-Man moves and controls the same. Every now and then they'll change something basic, like instead of this building collapsing, it's being filled with gas. All the character sprites have been updated to these weird 3D looking models, so I guess that's a difference. The boss skins have been changed, but they still behave exactly the same. For example, Mysterio is just the Vulture, and Lizard is Kraven. The only real difference between these two games are the web-swinging stages, which are now in full 3D. Okay, let's move on to the 7th generation of handhelds, where Spider-Man 2 was a launch title on both platforms. First, we have the Nintendo DS version. This one is a side-scroller beat-em-up just like the other handheld games, however it does utilize the DS's beefier hardware to allow for these semi-3D environments, which results in Spidey turning a lot of corners. The touchscreen is used to switch between special moves and do basic mini-games. There's not really much more that can be said about this one. You go through all the expected levels fighting all the same villains as the other versions. It's a pretty average game, but it was a launch title, so you can't expect too much. To me, the most memorable thing about this one was Aunt May just dangling from the ledge during the Doc Ock battle. And there's no timer or anything, she will just keep holding on forever. Same with Mary Jane in the final battle, look, she'll just hang there forever. Wow, the women in Peter's life have some incredible grip strength. And finally, released almost a year after the movie, we have the PSP version. Now, Spider-Man being a Sony property, the company made a big deal about this being a launch title for the platform. So, with almost an extra year of development, did they do something special for this version? You know, like squeeze the console version onto a UMD the way The Force Unleashed and the GTA games did? Well, they did port the console version, just not the one you'd hope. That's right, Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation Portable is a slightly reworked copy of the first console game. Same controls, same levels, same awkward web swinging from the sky. I'd say only about 40% of the levels are actually new in this game, and even then they still reuse a lot of the same gameplay mechanics and objectives from the original. You're either rescuing hostages or swinging through the city or taking on some generic goons. In order to try and fit all of these levels into the game's plot, they had to make a new set of pre-rendered cutscenes. Oh my god, no wonder Peter doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore. He looks terrible. That or he's been indulging in a bit too much of the old Mary Jane, if you know what I mean. You can technically move the camera, but you have to use the D-pad, which makes it really awkward to navigate around. Oh no, they've locked Aunt May in the vault. Mr. Banker, can you help me rescue Aunt? Oh my god, what happened to your hair? Ah yes, the old chasing the villain through the city level. Oh, I didn't realize Doc Ock could fly. Speaking of which, the Vulture is back in a set of flying levels just like the first game. Also, I like this very specific looking goon with an eye patch and orange hoodie that just keeps popping up. He's there at the start, he works for the Vulture and Shocker, he's even there at the start of this level giving you hints.
You can turn on the sprinklers!
Alright, time for the final sequence. At least these stages are actually new. We start with Stoned Peter meeting... Wait, who the hell is that supposed to be? Anyway, we then get to this side-scrolling stage on the train where you have to defeat 25, pirates, and then the final battle, which is very similar to the console version of the sequel. You take out the terminals and then fight Doc Ock. And so there we have it, every version of Spider-Man 2, the game. Now, the handheld games are a case study in publishers cutting corners, while the PC version plays like baby's first Spider-Man adventure. The console version, on the other hand, stands apart from the licensed game mediocrity of its siblings. Yes, to be fair, this game isn't without its growing pains. Some of these controls can feel a little wonky at times, and some parts do rely on grinding for hero points to stretch out the game. But the console version of Spider-Man 2 did so much right. It built on the first game, opening it up into this fun, vibrant sandbox, which would go on to set the benchmark for all the other Spider-Man games to come. Not only is this one of the best Spider-Man games ever made, it's a genuinely good game in its own right. But that's just my take. Please leave a comment below with all your thoughts and memories of all the different versions of Spider-Man 2, the movie, the game. As always, thanks for watching. Please consider supporting me on Patreon, and a big thanks to all of my existing patrons. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.